Wednesday, April 3rd meeting of the East Hampton City Council. Could I have a roll call, please?
Justin Cobb.
Present.
Donald Psychowski.
Present.
Salem Derby.
Present.
Dan Hagan.
Present.
Joe McCoy.
Here.
Chester Oglovitz.
Present.
Dan Rist. Joy Winnie.
Here.
Nathan Ziegler.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 20th
moved.
meeting?
Second.
We have a motion on the table to approve the minutes of the March 20th meeting. Is there any amendments or changes or further comment on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a? I'm abstaining. We do have a abstention. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the special joint convention meeting of the City Council?
So moved.
Second. Okay, we have a motion on the table to approve the minutes of the March 27th meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. I wasn't at the meeting.
One abstention. Okay. That said, this is a period of time where we actually head towards our public speak time. I do wish to note that our rules have changed, so for everybody's benefit, both the public and the councilors up here, I will read the second paragraph of our rule. All remarks during this period should be made to the council as a whole, not to an individual member. In order to avoid possible violation of open meeting laws, the council shall not engage in any dialogue regarding remarks made at public comment. Dialogue regarding information on local events and or public service announcements may be allowed at the discretion of the presiding officer. That's the kind of tighten things up there. That said, is there any member of the public who would like to step forward and address the council at this time? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Council President, members of the council, Mayor Koshnick. My name is Norman Roy. I live at 351 Main Street, Unit 1A. And I'm here tonight to represent the Hampton East condominium on Main Street, 359 Main Street, which consists of 60 units, most of which are for 55 and older residents, approximately 120 constituents. Right now, we pay approximately $240,000 in property taxes and receive very little in the way of services from the city. And those we do receive, we pay for out of pocket. We do not put a strain on the school system, as our owners do not have any children to speak of. We are considered a private property, therefore any infrastructure repairs, snow removal, etc., are self-funded by the residents. Currently, almost 65% of our irrigation water bill goes towards a service that the city does not provide with respect to the irrigation system, and that is the sewer fee. And that represents 65% of our water bill. Thus far, we have spent $15,000 despite, for our fiscal year, by the way, which starts on August 1st, despite turning off the water for 2 months in the summer of last year. So we're still faced right now going into the bulk of the summer where we'll be watering during June, August, and of course May. The purpose for being here tonight is to lay the groundwork for discussions with the appropriate council members who represent our district, the mayor, and the head of public works, to see if there's something we can work out in terms of getting relief with respect to our irrigation bills. Harvest Valley, also a 55 and over condominium community, which has 64 units, authorized me tonight to indicate that they are also interested in entering the discussion along with Hampton East. And what I described above in terms of finances, etc., when you include Harvest Valley, you can double all those numbers. So I just wanted to make people aware of my intentions going forward.
Thank you. Look forward to your information. Is there any other members of the public who would like to step forward and address the council at this time? Please do so and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Jason Dunham. I'm a member of the Insurance Advisory Board. I just wanted to make the councilors aware that there is a packet within all your papers from the Insurance Advisory Board. There was a proposal brought forward by the mayor for us to look at. We had been going through the process. On the second and third page is what our findings are. And on the third and fourth page, there's actually a timeline on all the meetings that we had and a brief synopsis of what the discussions were. I also had received a letter from the mayor, as did all the members, and I put that on the top of the packet. Just due to the letter, I wanted to put the timeline in there so you guys would understand there was, due diligence. If you have any questions, I don't know if you want us to go into it now, I'm sure.
I can.
Right, okay. So, I'm sorry about that, but you have our numbers if there's any discussion on it, or if you'd like to talk about it.
Thank you. I look forward to meeting you. Is there any other member of the public who would like to come forward and address the council at this time? Please do so and step up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none. Communications, we have none. Correspondence? Counselor Psychowski, go ahead.
I happened to be reading the paper, and there was a little blurb in the paper about bills pending in the state legislature. And in the state legislature, there's one bill pending that if you're over 65, they were gonna try to come and stabilize your tax rate, so, because they realize that everybody over 65, most people are living on Social Security and very little. And so I would just want to say, if you're reaching that age, even if you're in late 50s, contact your state representative and your state senator to make sure that bill gets pushed forward so they don't hide it. That's all I want to say.
Okay. Seeing no more, there's no more communication or correspondence. Mayor, do you have anything to offer tonight? Mayor Communications, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have anything formal to offer, but I did want to inform you that the budget will not be arriving at your meeting until the first meeting in May. And I'll go into it further at the next Finance Committee subcommittee meeting. We can have a discussion, but we do expect that we'll publish the budget in time for your May 1st meeting. The delay is really driven by the uncertainty at the state level. There's approximately $120,000 in additional state aid in the governor's budget that's supported by the governor's tax plan. We're certainly not certain where that's going. It appears as though recent action at the legislative level has proposed a package for transportation supportive taxes that is less than the governor's request. And so we're not certain where it's going to go with the other part of that. And a significant portion of the money is related to Chapter 70, so whether there'll be additional Chapter 70 revenues or not, we're not sure. So that's the reason for the delay. But I wanted to give you a heads up. If you have any questions, you feel free to contact me directly or ask them tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that said, we'll go to, we got a couple minutes here. We'll go to reports of standing committees. I'll do rules. Was actually Councilor Riss contacted me. It's rather simple tonight. There's no report. That said, I'll hand it over to Councilor Hagan for finance.
First, I'll announce our next Finance Subcommittee meeting will be April 10th, 6 p.m., room 1. As far as the finance agenda, the two interdepartmental transfer items that are on the agenda, those are set for public hearings already for April 17th. The next several items are all Department of Public Works items, which we'll be taking up in our public hearings tonight. And the final item on the agenda is a supplemental appropriation that also already has a public hearing set for the 17th. I would like at the next subcommittee meeting to take up at least a preliminary discussion of Councilor Cobb's request for a senior work-off program and at least start simulating some data or what data we might need to see how we want to move that. So that will be on the subcommittee agenda, and that's all we have tonight.
Does that conclude? Excuse
I
me.
did want to note that I am missing one thing under the finance agenda, that borrowing supplemental.
Yeah, that we put in last time.
Yeah, it's not on the agenda, I
Okay.
just missed it. The borrowing, the bonding.
Bonding for, okay.
Thank you. Does that conclude?
That concludes.
Thank you. Councilor McCoy, Public Safety?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I would like to make set a public hearing for the amended traffic rules and orders for the stop sign intersection of Kingsbury Way and Strong Street for April 17th at 6:15, in the form of a motion.
Second.
In these
Okay.
chambers.
There's a motion on the table, set a public hearing for the item, amend traffic rules and orders for a stop sign at Kingsbury Way. Is there any further discussion on this motion? For the public hearing at 4:17, 6:15, these chambers. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any objections or abstentions? None, motion passes. Councilor McCoy, you still have the floor.
Thank you. That concludes. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Winning?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we send the 4 appointments from the mayoral department down to appointment subcommittee.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to move the new 4 mayoral appointments to appointment for consideration and review. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Any
And,
objections or abstentions? None? Councilor Winning?
sorry, our next meeting will be on April 17th at 5:45 in these chambers to review the 4 appointments we just put down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Derby, ordinance?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just need to announce that our next meeting is going to be April 10th at 6 p.m. In conference room A in the basement here at 50 Payson Ave, where we're going to look at the special permitting process and maybe the section 10.43 residential kitchens if we have time. So
Okay,
that concludes my report.
thank you. Councilor Psychowski, property?
Yes, we're gonna set, on that intersection that they're talking about, the rebuild, we're gonna set a meeting for April 8th at 6 p.m. I don't know the room number yet, and, but I hope everybody is there, and that's the end of my report.
Thank you. The room number will be posted. Okay, that said, we're getting kind of close, so I'll entertain a motion to enter into a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion on the table to enter into public hearing. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any objections or abstentions? None is noted. Obviously, Councilor Hagan, you have the rest of the meeting.
As you can see from the agenda, there's several public hearings. We'll obviously take them one at a time. All of them involve Public Works, and I know the Public Works Director's here, so he can more describe in detail what these involve. The first item, and I'll do a second reading on it, dated February 11th, 2013. The request is hereby made for approval of following appropriation. The amount requested, $15,000, to be appropriated from retained earnings, and that amount, $15,000, and appropriated to the wastewater treatment plant equipment upgrade. The amount requested to be used for the following purpose: to fund the replacement of a gravity thicker pump at the wastewater plant. Again, I'll like to call on Superintendent Pipchinsky. I believe it's an aging pump where parts are becoming hard to get to repair, so you're going to replace, if I have that
Yeah,
correct.
good evening, folks. That's exactly right. This is an old pump. It's outdated. It's something that we have to spend a lot of money on parts. A new one's just much more efficient just to put in, and the parts are much more available. But it's something that's needed at the treatment plant, so we'll continue to meet our discharge monitoring requirements.
Councilor Winnie, go ahead.
How old is the pump? Do you know?
20 years,
20
probably.
years.
Right.
Any other technical questions for the superintendent over here? Okay, do you have anything further you want to add? Okay, that said, I'll open it up for public comment. If there's anybody in the public who'd like to step forward to speak to this issue, please do so at this time. Seeing none, Councilor Hagan, you have the floor.
I'll make the following motion. I make a motion that the council approve the following appropriation. The amount $15,000 to be appropriated from retained earnings, $15,000, and appropriated to the plant equipment upgrade for the wastewater treatment plant. The amount requested will be used for replacement of the gravity thickener pump at the wastewater plant.
Second.
We have a motion on the table for approval of a supplemental appropriation request in the amount of $15,000 to fund the replacement of gravity thickener pump at the wastewater plant. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any objections or abstentions? Motion passes. Counselor Hagan, you have the floor.
Next public hearing, I'll do a second reading. Supplemental appropriation dated February 11th, 2013. Request is hereby made for approval of the following appropriation. The amount requested, $15,900 to be appropriated from free cash, $15,900, and appropriated to highway capital equipment repair expense, $15,900. The amount requested used for the following purpose: to provide funding for repairs to the frame of a Model 2000 International dump truck. What I failed to say at the last public hearing, but I will say, all of these appropriations were approved 3-0 by the subcommittee. Again, I'll open it up to the superintendent for a little explanation on this one.
Yeah, we've got a 2000 model international dump truck. The cab and the motor are pretty solid. The frame is pretty rotted. So we're going to pick up the cab and the motor and slide a new frame under it and hopefully get another 5 to 7 years out of it.
You did mention this new frame was going to be constructed differently than the existing frame?
That's correct. The old frame is called a double frame, and over the years, the salt has got in there and it's actually spread the frame apart and weakened it. So this will be a heavier single frame so that we won't get that spreading effect on the new one.
Okay, are there any, Counselor Psychowski?
Joe, I realize this isn't the first frame you had to replace, but the thing of it is, do you guys have a good wash rack down there where you could go in and, you know, where you come in from spreading salt and you go in and everything is flooded up under the truck?
To do that, according to DEP regulations, it's in the capital plan for about $200,000.
How much?
$200,000.
Well, you better get some coffee cans around in the restaurants.
Okay, any other technical questions for the superintendent while he's up here?
Just one, that the truck itself still has the usefulness of this body, I mean.
Yes, the cab itself is solid. The motor itself is very strong. So it's well worth extending the life of that.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Counselor
Just
Derby?
one quick one. I'm just curious, how much would a new one cost?
$200,000.
That's, okay, thank you.
Washer.
Same as the
Okay.
wash.
That said, I'll open it up to the public. If there's any members of the public who'd like to come forward and speak on this issue, please do so at this time and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, Counselor Hagan.
I'll make the following motion that the council approve the following supplemental appropriation. Amount requested is $15,900 to be appropriated from free cash and appropriated to the highway capital equipment repair expense, in that amount, $15,900, for the following purpose: to provide funding to repair, for the repairs to the frame of a Model 2000 International dump truck.
Second.
We have a motion on the table to recommend approval of supplemental appropriation request in the amount of $15,900 to provide funding for repairs to the frame of a model year 2000 International dump truck. Is there any further comment on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions or objections? Seeing none, motion passes. Counselor Hagan, you have the floor.
Our third public hearing tonight, I'll do a second reading on supplemental appropriation request dated February 11th. The request is hereby made to approve the following appropriation. The amount requested, $26,000, to be appropriated from free cash, in that amount, $26,000, to be appropriated to DPW vehicle acquisition expense, $26,000. The amount requested for the following purpose: to purchase a new passenger vehicle for use by the city engineer. I would say, before we get into this or have the superintendent get into this, this is one when I first had it, I think it's a little misleading in that it's not really a new passenger vehicle that he has a old Crown Vic that he uses from the fire department, but this is really a utility vehicle that will hold his tools and be able to transport, I believe, some people. That's the upgrade. It's not just, it makes it sound like it's just a new car for him, and it's a utility vehicle that will be used in the engineering department.
You're absolutely right. Traditionally, he had a van where he could carry his necessary equipment in it, but the van was also used to transport water employees to school so they can continue get their credits for their licenses. The original van had a rotten frame. Ford pulled it off the road and said it can't be used anymore. So for over a year now, he's been riding around in an old police Crown Vic. It's got to the point where if he stops on the side of the road with the flashing lights on, the thing overheats. His wipers don't work. His dash doesn't work. So it's getting to the point where that car isn't even going to be good for that. What this will do is this will give him that vehicle to transport his equipment as needed. In addition, it will be also used for the water department employees to go to work, go to school to continue to get their continuing education credits.
Okay, any further questions for the superintendent? I will make this comment that what swayed me on this one was not only the additional utility, but the gas mileage of this particular vehicle. And getting the city engineer is kind of something he can carry his tools in is kind of, in my mind, was long overdue. But,
What kind of vehicle was it?
This vehicle is going to be called the Ford Transit Connect. It's looks like a squished up van.
Yeah.
Right.
So how many seats will be in there? Because you said transporting.
They'll be able to carry 5 people. But the seats it's very flexible, where the seats can fold down. He can put his equipment in it. If needed for a passenger vehicle, he takes his equipment out, fold the seats up, and guys can go to school.
okay, any further technical questions for the superintendent? Seeing none, if there's
Oh,
any
just
members?
one-
Okay,
it-
Councilor Hagan?
Just for getting back to the gas mileage, I know it's just a 4-cylinder engine in this.
That's
right? It's,
correct.
rear
that's
drive,
correct.
so obviously it's getting better mileage than the Crown
Than the
Vic.
Crown Vic.
Much better. It's a good
We made an
improvement.
improvement there. Okay, if there's any member of the public who would like to step forward and address the council on this issue, please do so. State your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Mayor Tausnig. I just wanted to add to the conversation that this original request was for a pickup truck, which would be traditional for the engineer to use and is not unusual. We moved to this vehicle because of the need for passenger transportation, but this vehicle gets better mileage than the pickup that we would have used. We would have selected a Ford F-150 pickup. I believe the average mileage on that F-150 is 19 or 20 miles per gallon. I think the average mile on this one is like 23. So it's a more efficient vehicle than the pickup, which would have been the initial selection. So we try to keep into the idea to use the most economical vehicle we can, and clearly it gives us a lot more flexibility than a single seat pickup truck.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other member?
Did you look into those pools where we can purchase vehicles?
That's what this is. You have information that it's from the MHQ state bid. It was provided with the
MHQ.
packet. And so we
State bid list.
always buy our vehicles on a bid when we can. And I don't recall a vehicle that we've purchased either for the police department or the Department of Public Works in the last 6 or 8 years that hasn't been off of a bid. I think the last vehicle we may have procured independent of that was a Pontiac that the DPW director drove a couple of vehicles ago. Right. From a local Pontiac dealer, and that brand is long gone. And so we've been using MHQ or the Boston Police Council or the Barnstable County bids over the last 8 or 10 years.
I was just thinking if there was something you like used that we could get our hands on.
There are no used vehicles on state bids, and we did not look and don't intend to look for a used vehicle unless you turn this down.
I would ask that the counselor on the
Go
end, please be recognized before you continue the discussion. That said, I did invite the public up here to speak on this. If there's any other members of the public who would like to address the council on this issue, please do so at this time. Seeing none, Councilor Hagan has the floor.
I just
Mr. Derby?
I wanted to just say one comment. I just think it was a good due diligence to look from a pickup truck to this vehicle, and it seems like, you know, from the price that includes LED lights for safety, and that's a good price. So I would say the bid came in well.
Councilor Hagan.
I'll make the following motion that the council approved supplemental appropriation of $26,000 from free cash, $26,000 to DPW vehicle acquisition, $26,000. The amount requested used for the following purpose: to purchase a new passenger vehicle for use by the city engineer.
Second.
We have a motion on the table to recommend approval of supplemental appropriation in the amount of $26,000 to fund the purchase of a new passenger vehicle for use by the city engineer. Is there any further discussion on this motion? I will make one comment that while the questioning was good tonight, a lot of this was actually asked at the finance, especially the issue on the pickup. We did mention that in part of our discussions, and we were obviously swayed because the vote was 3-0. That said, is there any further comment on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any objections or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. Councilor Hagan, you have the floor again.
Do a second reading on the next public hearing, supplemental appropriation request dated February 11th, 2013. Request is hereby made to approval of the following appropriation. The amount requested, $51,000, to be appropriated from free cash, $51,000, and appropriated to highway capital equipment repair expense, $51,000. The amount requested to be used for the following purpose: to fund a cost of a new dump sander body for a model 2003 International dump truck. Again, I'll let the superintendent give you the particulars, but this is another thing where we're just buying not the whole truck, just the sander unit to improve our roads, road clearing, which I thought we did a great job with this past winter where we had a lot of snow, so.
Hey, Superintendent, go ahead.
That's correct. It's a 2003. The body that's on there now is a combination sander dump body, but it wasn't purchased as stainless steel. It was purchased with a mild steel. And 10 years later, it's taken its toll, and we actually cannot use it as a dump body or a sander anymore because the mechanisms are all rotted. So it has to be taken off, has to be changed. If it's not changed, we lose one sander when it comes next winter. Again, the truck, the cab and the motor are strong. So by putting this on there, we can get at least a minimum 5 to 7 years, possibly more.
Councilor Winnie?
Should the truck go down, can we take this sander off of that truck and put it on another truck?
Absolutely. We do that all the time.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, technical questions from the councilors? Okay, I will make a quick comment that, just to note that this is a direct replacement, and this is a mid-feed type of sander, where the wheel is actually in the middle of, underneath the frame. It's a specialized type of dump truck. I was actually impressed by the actual quality of the vehicle, and that is actually what swayed me. I think we're gonna get a little more use than the conservative estimate from the superintendent. That said, is there any other questions for the superintendent?
Again, this was,
Councilor Hagan?
not for the superintendent, this was also approved 3-0, as I said, all these were by the finance.
Thank you. Any other questions for the superintendent? That said, if there's any members of the public who'd like to step forward and speak to council on this issue, please do so at this time. Just state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, Councilor Hagan.
I'll make the following motion, that we approve council approve the supplemental appropriation, the amount of $51,000 to be appropriated from free cash, $51,000 to the highway capital equipment repair expense, $51,000. Request is for the following purpose: to fund the cost of a new dump sander body for a Model 2000 International dump truck.
Second.
We have a motion on the table to recommend approval of a supplemental appropriation request in the amount of $51,000 to fund the cost of a new dump sander body for a model year 2003 International dump truck. Is there any further comment on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any objections or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. Councilor Hagan.
I'll do a second reading on this supplemental appropriation of the next public hearing dated February 11th, 2013. Request is hereby made for approval of the following appropriation. The amount requested, $65,000, to be appropriated from retained earnings, $65,000, and appropriated to the Water Department vehicle acquisition. The amount requested to be used for the following purpose: to fund the replacement of a heavy-duty step van used by the Water Department. I guess I'll let the superintendent speak to this. I know the cost was quite high on this, but he can explain.
Yeah, right now we've got a 1986 step van. It's actually like a dry corn spread truck. But it's it's too light for what we need to put in there. We need, in this van, we need to carry whatever we need to pull up to a water break and have all our pumps, lights, generators, all on that truck. The one we have now is, like I said, is an 86. It's got like 180,000 miles on it. And it's only, the rear end's only rated for 11,000 pounds. And the axle is actually bent because it's overloaded. This comes much heavier, so we can put the extra weight in there. We can carry what we need to carry, and like I said, pull up to a water break and have everything we need right there.
Any questions for the superintendent? Yes. Councilor Psychowski?
Is there any alternatives, like having an equipment trailer to pull behind one of the trucks?
It would have to be enclosed. It would have to be.
They got enclosed ones, Joe.
It would have to be big. Then we'd probably need a truck to pull it.
Well, you see the landscapers going around and they got 3-4 lawnmowers in them, and they got dual wheels and everything else. And I mean, I just wondered, you know, $65,000 for a step van is a lot of money.
This has bins on the inside of it where we have all kinds of different brasses, all kinds of different repair parts. This is something that, like I said, we pull up, we've got everything right there. It's not something you have to hook up to, not something you have to figure out what truck you're gonna pull it with. The guy jumps in it and he goes.
Any further questions? Any other questions for the superintendent? I will note that I actually thought of the, a good question, I actually thought of the same
That
thing.
doesn't solve my problem.
And I was looking at trying to condense the actual width, because I've seen big trucks with the landscaper trailers behind them, and they take up so much part of the road, they end up causing their own traffic problem. So it's the only thing that swayed me on that particular topic. Any other questions for the superintendent? Hearing none, if there's any members of the public who would like to step forward and address the council on this issue, please do so at this time. Just state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, Councilor Hagan.
Make the following motion, that the council approve the following supplemental appropriation. The amount requested is $65,000 to be appropriated from retained earnings, $65,000, and appropriated to Water Department vehicle acquisition, $65,000. The amount requested to be used for the following purpose: to fund the replacement of a heavy-duty step van used in the Water Department.
Second.
We have a motion on the table to recommend approval of the supplemental appropriation request in the amount of $65,000 to fund the replacement of a heavy-duty step van used in the Water Department. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any objections or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. Councilor Hagan, you still have the floor.
Next public hearing on the following supplemental appropriation. I'll do a second reading dated February 11th, 2013. Request is hereby made for approval of the following appropriation. The amount requested, $65,000, to be appropriated from retained earnings, $65,000, and appropriated to the wastewater treatment pump station upgrade, in that amount $65,000. The amount requested would be used for the following purpose: to provide funding to upgrade the electrical system and service at Oliver Street pump station. Again, I'll let the superintendent go into the details, but I know this is going from a single-phase electrical system to a three-phase now that it's out there in Oliver as a result of the solar project. And I think there's also a problem with this panel that's currently there kind of sinking into the water. But I'll let the superintendent.
Superintendent.
That's correct. At the intersection of Oliver and Clark Lane, we have a sewer pump station. There's an outside electrical panel. That panel, it's all clay there. That panel is sinking into the mud, and it's got electrical conduit underneath that leads to the pole. Well, one of these days when that settles so much, it's going to break that conduit. It's going to break the line, and we're not going to have any power there at all. So what we want to do is replace that panel, and while we're replacing that panel, now that the solar is out at the landfill, we have three-phase electricity available to us, which before we didn't. So if we're going to replace that, we want to replace the pumps in the pump station itself, and with three-phase pumps, it's going to be much more energy efficient and do the job right, do it once.
Are there any questions for the superintendent? Councilor Psychowski.
Doing all this work, you're gonna put a good foundation under the new system you're putting in so it doesn't sink in the mud, right?
Well, the other one took 15 years to sink. This one we're gonna go a little bit, put a foundation under it. We'll at least get 15 or more, absolutely.
Any further questions for the superintendent? That said, if any member of the public would like to step forward and address the council on this issue, please do so at this time and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, Councilor Hagan?
I'll make the following motion, that the council approve the supplemental appropriation in the amount of $65,000 to be appropriated from retained earnings, $65,000 appropriated to wastewater treatment pump station upgrade, $65,000 for the following purpose, to provide funding to upgrade the electrical systems and service at the Oliver Street pump station.
Second.
We have a motion on the table to recommend approval of supplemental appropriation request in the amount of $65,000 to provide funding to upgrade the electrical systems and service at the Oliver Street pump station. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any objections or abstentions? Motion passes. Councilor Hagan.
Our final public hearing tonight, I'll do a second reading on supplemental appropriation dated February 11th. The request is hereby made for approval of the following appropriation. Amount requested $70,000 to be appropriated from retained earnings, $70,000, and appropriated to sewer vehicle acquisition expense, $70,000. The amount requested to be used for the following purpose: to fund the cost of a new flushing machine for the sewer department. I know this was one of the top of the list priorities by the superintendent, and I know there was a lot of discussion at the subcommittee, especially by Councilor Cobb, about renting versus buying this, and it was explained, but I'll let the superintendent go into it.
Superintendent, go ahead.
The flushing machine for the sewer department is our number one piece of equipment for dealing with the sewer backup. We have to be able to keep our sewer lines clear. If the sewer lines back up, it's gonna back up into somebody's home. We need to be able to have a machine that we can pull out in the middle of the night and clear that line. In addition, we do maintenance all year long as the weather is above freezing. We'll do maintenance on flushing our sewer lines, flushing our drain lines. So this machine is not only used for emergency purposes, this is used for scheduled maintenance. So this machine is going a couple days a week all over town. And as I said, this is something that is replacing a machine that right now is not putting out the pounds per square inch that it should be. And it's hard for us to keep our keep our lines clear and open up a line because we're not getting the pressure out of it. We've tried everything we could to get that pressure back to where we need it, but I think what's happened is that the machine is just worn and it's just not going to work.
I'd like to, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'd like to note that this machine is actually a commercial for the large size sewers. This is not something we use on domestic lines at all, because it would probably blow lines apart. But, so it's a specialized piece of equipment just for this particular purpose. Is there any further discussion or comment for the superintendent? Seeing none, is there any members of the public who would like to step forward and address the council on this issue at this time? Please do so. State your name and address for the record. Seeing none, Councilor Hagan.
I'll make the following motion, that the council approve the supplemental appropriation. Amount requested $70,000 to be appropriated from retained earnings, $70,000, and appropriated to sewer vehicle acquisition in that amount, $70,000. The request for the following purpose: to fund the cost of a new flushing machine in the sewer department.
Second.
We have a motion on the table to recommend approval of supplemental appropriation request in the amount of $70,000 to fund the cost of a new flushing machine in the sewer department. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any objections or
Motion to
abstentions?
close the public hearing?
Second.
We have a motion on the table to close the public hearings. Any further comment on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any objections or abstention? Motion passes. Seeing we've handled our new business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion on the table to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any objections, abstentions? Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for attending tonight.